Well, it's Nicky Grist turn mechanic. I'm in my turn 1 overalls, and I've actually taken the turbo off my car in readiness for a bit of a refresh and a check over, which is the next trip, and I'm off to Oxfordshire. Well, it's 2025, and as well as sorting out new things for the business this year, I'm also starting to think about the rally car and basically the few events that I've got planned for this season. So as a part of the preparation of the car, I wanted to get the turbo rebuilt for this season. And unfortunately, there was a gentleman, his name was Jürgen Müller, better known at Toyota Team Europe. His nickname was Little Boots. He was the main guy for all the turbos in the team. And unfortunately, last year he died. So I don't have the option of Little Boots to be able to rebuild my turbo. So today I'm on a bit of a trip, found an alternative company to look after the servicing of the turbo. Delighted with who I found, but more of that when I get there. Well, almost there. I'm in rural Oxfordshire and a small industrial estate just on the outside of a small town called Kingston Bagpuws. That's to the south of Oxford itself. Owen Developments was set up in the late 80s by ex-Austin Rover motorsport mechanic Brian Owen, but it's now run by his son Lee Owen. Lee, unfortunately, was too shy to speak to us on camera, but he is massively experienced in turbos for both motorsport and road use. Lee, fortunately for me, has actually worked on TT factory turbos in the past, and I'm absolutely delighted to have him work and be involved in the build of my turbo. Okay, well, I've got my turbo. Today is fitment day. I hope you're not going to be following every nut and bolt going on this car, but I'm going to give it a go. But yeah, come and have a look at the turbo. Let me tell you a little about the turbos on these cars. I mean, with the Group A period, so many of the parts had to be more or less standard, but the turbo was allowed to be modified within certain tolerances. So, you know, the exhaust housing is just slightly larger, and of course we're fitting a restrictor on it to keep it in line with European rallying. And no, this is not the ST205 restrictor. This is a totally legitimate 38mm restrictor, beautifully polished up by Owen Developments. And I've actually mounted it on a new exhaust manifold, a new old exhaust manifold. You know, even TT had these made in special materials, a better steel sort of cast type of manifold. And, you know, having had a new old one, which was in pretty good spec, when I actually took the old one off, even this is modified. It's lightened from what a standard one is quite considerably. And of course in TT they probably had a CAD machining program for this, and it's beautifully shaved and trimmed down, taking out weight, lightening it here, ports taken out to a maximum tolerance. Whenever you're basing a car and building a car around a standard part, tolerances have to give you an edge of tolerance, because you can't guarantee that they'll be perfect every time. So TTE open them out to the maximum tolerances, just trying to eke out every bit of performance they can get. The turbo, as I said, I fitted the manifold on there, and this is the completed unit. So next step is put it on the car. I reckon it's about 20 kilos. Getting it on here is going to be fun. So I've just have a bit of a clean up here. I'm now actually putting some copper slip. It's basically very high temperature anti-seize compound. So this stuff works up until 1100 degrees. So it's more than enough to cope with here. So I'm just putting some copper slip between the head and the gasket, and then preparing all the head bolts with copper slip. So at least when it comes off, it's going to be a lot easier than not having anything at all. So that was something I learned off my mate Don. Thank you, Don. So these are proper TT gaskets and built to that spec now, but they are designed for extremely high temperatures. A standard gasket would just blow itself apart with a rally car. But what was actually interesting, on one side there is a seal and an edge, and what I didn't realize is you have to have a complete flat edge against the flow of the gases coming from the head. So I'll just make sure I've got this right. Yeah, there's no joins on this side, so that's the side for the head. There's one in place. That's it, completely flat. So that's one part done. Next, it's the heavy stuff. Basically, try to lift the turbo into place as best I can. God. So this is a bit tight. How on earth? We used to have a turbo change every day just to keep reliability of the turbo running absolutely 100%. How on earth the guys managed it? You know, when you have something with a lot of temperature in it, okay, they used to throw 30 litres of water on it to cool everything down. But how they did it and managed to basically do it in what was 30 minutes, which is some feat, but if you're doing it every day, I suppose they can manage it well enough. So let's just put some bolts in place. I don't look a complete disaster doing this job, at least, but you know, it's nice to work on your own car, I have to say. You know, once upon a time, you didn't even have to think about anything. It just basically, the mechanics would just dive in and do what's needed, and you could just buzz off and get a cup of coffee and a bite to eat in a service, or just sit and relax and wait till the job's done. So yeah, I do quite enjoy it, looking after your own car. The good thing is I've got a lot of XT to E people to hand, which will help me with any queries I may have. This is now tricky because I've now somehow, I lost this bolt before where it dropped down behind the oil pump. So this one is really tricky bolt to get on. I think I've got it, my word. Oops. It's okay. I've got it. No, I haven't. Damn, I'm blast. Okay, let's just nip these up a tad. With the standard manifold, it was basically, you get a lot of heat build-up in the center of the manifold, which is where the turbo is as well. So you have to, setting it on the head, I asked the engine builder, what torque setting should I put these to? He said they need to be FT. I'm sure everybody knows what FT is. It's flipping tight. You know, when you flatten off the exhaust manifold face ready, you find always that the manifold always tends to flex from the center, so the outside edges tend to come this way. So you have to really apply a lot of pressure on the outside edges of the manifold to help control that, because you do get an element of gasket leak after time when the manifold starts to flex on the outer edges, on the outer cylinders. So we're getting there. Right, how did I manage that? Right, where's my little socket gone? Ah, right under my nose, typical. This is really tricky here, trying to tighten up this outside bolt. It probably would be easier in this case, take off the alternator, but I don't want to make more work for myself, but I will just struggle for the moment. Okay, well that's all the bits nipped up, but now I have to start by really torquing from the center first and then working to the outside edges. That's what the guys have told me to do, and that is what I'm going to attempt to do. Hope I haven't gone too red in the face doing that. Don Woolfield, eat your heart out. I don't know, a little bit of a concern here, just how I'm going to tighten this one up behind the alternator. I mean, putting a ratchet on and being able to get a socket and really crank it up is one thing, but just have a look at where it is here. If you have a look at the one I'm trying to tighten up, and it's a bit tricky, it's right back in there. But why make something easy when you can make it difficult, I say. The joys of being a mechanic. So what I'm going to do while I'm at it, other than to recapture a nut I've dropped underneath here, is drop the sump guard, purely because once I've got the car started, I'll just get the oil warmed up and then it'll be easier for me to refresh the oil while I'm at it. I'm just dropping the trolley jack underneath there. On this car, it's got a gravel spec sump guard and it's really heavy. When I've undone the bolts, I wouldn't want it falling on me, so I'm just going to support it with the jack. That's probably a little bit of common sense co-driver coming in there, I think. Number one, nothing like having a bit of blood when you're working on your car. I think it's at times like this you wish you had a ramp of some description. Oh. Just see if you're happy with that. I'm happy with it. On the range of FT, where are we? Numbered 1 to 10?
Probably like 8.
No, to be honest, I think once we've warmed it up, once the gaskets have warmed up, it's probably worthwhile taking the cover off. Right, we're nearly there. That's basically turbo on, oil connections done. Now it's just to fit the gasket and the elbow off the exhaust side of the turbo, which is a wee bit of a fiddle, but we are there. Let's just copper slip these threads. The thing is, you know, when you're mechanicking in a garage, the last thing on your mind is put copper slip on nuts and bolts, purely because taking it off often and in a hurry is not a consideration. But on a rally car, of course, it is. And especially, you know, if something happens on a rally, it really is a case of it needs to be done, and it needs to be done quickly. So these things, you know, do happen. So this neat little elbow here fits just here, and then this gadget here is the quick release for the turbo cover. So at least if you're diving in under the engine, it stops all the excess heat spilling out and burning hands that are working underneath the engine bay. Well, I think I've put the intercooler on, exhaust is on, we've checked and double checked, and I think everything's connected. Tightened up all the hoses for the intercooler. The next part now is to start it, and let's see. It's all running, it all sounds quite nice. I just left it like this so we can see a little bit of what's going on in here. Just burning off a bit of oil, but everything seems really quite nice. What do you think? So, all good? Are you happy with the sound, Christian? Good. Okay. That's great. Yes, I will. I only left it off now so we can see what's going on a little bit, but I'll switch it off now. Fantastic. Cheers. Bye. 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 So that's the engine builder. He's happy. Everything's good. There's just a bit of oil burn off from where we've been handling it on the exhaust manifold and in the turbo itself. But it doesn't sound like any leaks anywhere. It's all looking good. So I'm really happy with that so far. Anyway, I can tell you one thing. I don't want to do it again.
Into 3 left, plus opens, into 6 left.